Hello, Bio 2 students. So for this video, I'm going to show you how to solve the practice problems for our most recent lesson, extensions of Mendelian genetics or non-Mendelian inheritance. So I'm using the Blackboard app, okay, for instead of filming me writing on a notebook. So I'm trying this out. So I will solve the problems, which I will read. Hopefully you have a copy of the problems there on the PowerPoint, the slides that are uploaded on the Google Classroom. So let's get started. For practice problem number 1, flower color in snapdragons is governed by two alleles that show incomplete dominance. Determine the genotypes and phenotypes in the offspring of the following crosses. Letter A, red crossed with white. B, pink crossed with pink. C, pink crossed with white. And D, pink crossed with red. So let's start with defining the alleles that we will use for our crosses. So since we are working with incomplete dominance, and if you remember how this mode of inheritance works, is that you have two alleles and they are neither one of them is dominant over the other. So what happens is that if you have a combination of the two alleles in a single genotype, you will now have a distinct phenotype for that. So the phenotype for the heterozygote or the hybrid will be different from either purebred. Okay, so in this case, let's use the allele big R for red color in the flowers, and then W for white flower color. Okay. So with the first cross where we have red crossed with white, again, how do we solve this type of problem? First, we have to determine the genotype of the parents. So our red parent here, okay, red is one of the true breeding phenotypes. So red would be homozygous, big R, and white would be homozygous, WW, right? So these are both purebreds, meaning that if you cross red with red, you will always get offspring with red flowers. And then if you cross white with white, you will always get offspring with white flowers. But now when you cross these two, where you have two contrasting traits, we know that the red parent, being homozygous, will produce gametes that contain only the allele big R for red. While the plants with white flowers, being homozygous also, will produce gametes that only contain the big W allele. Okay? So during fertilization, these two gametes will combine to form the genotype of the zygote, which is RW. So all of the offspring will be heterozygous na RW. Okay? And then of course, RW is a different phenotype. It's neither red nor white. It's now pink, as we've talked about this in our discussion of incomplete dominance. Okay? So this is the genotypic ratio and the phenotypic ratio of the cross between red and white flowered plants. Okay? So let's move on to letter B, where we are crossing pink with pink. Okay? So we know from the previous cross that plants with pink flowers are hybrid or heterozygous, So we know now the genotypes directly from the phenotypes, right? Why? Because there is now a distinct phenotype for the heterozygous individuals. Okay? So, iba siya dun sa homozygous na red, iba rin siya dun sa homozygous na white. Kapag meron kang red at white na allele sa isang individual, that would produce the pink color in the flowers. Okay? So, with this cross, okay, we know that these are the genotypes of both parents, RW. So, these are heterozygous. So, we can do a Punnett square here because we know that a heterozygous parent produces gametes that have different alleles, right? So, for example, this parent here, we can write here on the left, it produces two types of gametes. Those that carry the allele big R, and the other type carries big W. Okay? Now, the second parent here, having the same genotype, will also produce the same set of gametes. Half of them will contain big R, half of them will contain big W. So, when you do the Punnett square, where you combine the alleles from the parent here on the left and the parent there on the top, we will get this outcome where we have, in terms of the genotypic ratio, 1 homozygous for R is to 2 heterozygous RW is to 1 homozygous for W. So this is our genotypic ratio. Our phenotypic ratio is then 1 red. For this genotype, we have plants that produce red flowers is to 2 pink, because we know that the heterozygous individuals have pink flowers, is to 1 white. Okay? So this is our genotypic ratio and our phenotypic ratio. That is B. Now, what about C? C is where we have the cross between plants with pink flowers crossed with plants with white flowers. Okay? So, we have the pink parent has the genotype RW. We cross it with the white parent that has the genotype WW. Okay? So, you can also do Punnett square here if you like. Okay? With this parent here, lagay natin dito sa kaliwa, alleles of inside the gametes, we have gametes with R, and then gametes with W. Now, this one here is homozygous. So, all its gametes would contain W. Okay? So, to that cross, we find that in terms of the genotypes, we have a 1:1 ratio. That is 1 RW for every 1 WW. That's our genotypic ratio. And then our phenotypic ratio would be 1 pink is to 1 white. Okay? Okay. So, genotypic ratio, phenotypic ratio. Okay? Next, we have letter D naman is pink crossed with red. Okay? Pink parent, as we know, genotype is RW. We cross it with the red parent that we know is homozygous for big R. Okay? Again, we can do the Punnett square where we have this parent here producing gametes that contain R and also gametes that contain W. And then this parent here, being homozygous, produces all gametes containing only big R. So we do the cross again. The Punnett square gives us these possible offspring. Okay? And in terms of genotypes, we have for every one big R, we also get 1 big R, big W. phenotypic ratio 1 red is to 1 pink. Okay? So, genotypic ratio, phenotypic ratio, and we're done with problem number 1. Okay? So, when you solve problems, it's easier to define everything at the start. So, it's easier to be consistent with the terms and not be confused with what you're doing. Okay. Practice problem number 2. In a certain breed of chickens, plumage can either be black, big B, big B, white, big W, or speckled, a mixture of black and white feathers, big B, big W. So, that is how we're defining the mode of inheritance of feather color or plumage in this type of chicken. Okay? Where we have the black chickens are homozygous for black, and then we also have the white chickens, homozygous for white, and then we have the heterozygous chickens, BW, having a mixture of both black and white feathers. Okay? So, by this definition, what mode of inheritance do you think is followed by this particular character? Okay, na meron kang purebred na black, meron kang purebred na white, and then the hybrid or the heterozygous offspring have a plumage na mixture of black and white feathers. So, ibig sabihin, both alleles are being expressed at the same time. So, this is actually codominance. Okay? B and W are codominant with each other. So, in the presence of both, you will have both alleles are expressed at the same time. Okay? So, let's go back to the problem. It says here, letter A, when a black rooster is mated to a white hen, what genotypes and phenotypes of offspring would be obtained? Okay? So, we have a black rooster crossed with a white hen. Okay. So, for black, for the rooster to be black, he has to have the genotype big B, big B. For the hen to be, ano ba yan? Naku, hindi ko siya ma-erase. Sorry Itong app na to, pag pinrest ko si erase niya lahat. Hindi. Pwede ko pala i-back. Let's go back. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm sleepy. Okay. So, we have the white hen. Okay. So, the black rooster will have the genotype big B, big B. The white hen would have the genotype big W, big W. Okay. We do this cross. The black rooster produces gametes that contain only big B. And the white hen produces gametes that contain only big W. When these fuse during fertilization, we get the genotype of the offspring being heterozygous, big B, big W. Okay? And we know that this phenotype is the combination of black and white feathers. Okay? So, what's the answer? What genotypes? 100%. Though it doesn't ask for the genotypic ratio, lagay na rin natin, ha? 100% BW. And then the phenotypes, 100% black and white. Saan galing yung white na yun? Yung line yun. Okay? Malinaw, guys? Okay. So, let's proceed with the letter B. Still on the same question. Okay? So, tandaan nyo tong define natin na alleles, ha? Okay. Letter B. If one of the males of these offspring were mated to a white hen, what genotypes and phenotypes of offspring would be produced and in what proportions? Okay? So, sabi niya, one of the males... Oops. How did it do that? Where did this come from? Okay. I don't know. Dahil sumasagi yung kamay ko. We'll figure it out later. Okay, so the male has black and white feathers. This is the shortcut for between for some people. Anyway, black and white. Okay? And then we cross that with a female. Oops. Battery is running low on the laptop. Okay. Noted. Sige. Let me grab the... Where's the adapter? Where are you, adapter? Saglit, ha? Yeah. Sorry, guys. So unbothered. Please ko lang. Sana ma-upload ko by tomorrow. Naman kailangan na major edits, I hope. So, so black and white male, sorry. And the female is white. Okay? So, anong genotypes nitong couple na to? Anong parents na to? So, the black and white male, so we know it's codominant. For it to have black and white feathers, it has to be heterozygous. Okay? It's mated with female that has white feathers, so we know na homozygous siya for W. Okay? So, we can draw up. Why does it do that? Na lang natin pansinin. We can draw a Punnett square. Okay? First, we determine the gametes produced by each parent. So, the male will produce gametes with big B. And the other half would be gametes containing big W. The female, on the other hand, being homozygous, produces all gametes that contain big W. Okay? So, let's finish the square by writing the combination of alleles from the gametes. So, we get here a genotypic ratio of 1, or if you like, sige, okay na, 1 BW is to 1 WW. Okay? So, that in terms of phenotypes would be 1 black and white offspring is to 1 white offspring. Okay? So, yan yung sagot natin. So, we have the genotypic ratio of 1/2 BW, 1/2 WW. Okay? And then we get the same phenotypic ratio because we have a distinct phenotype for the heterozygous individual, which is a combination of both traits, right? So, 1 black and white offspring is to 1 white offspring. Okay? So, that's it for practice problem number 2. Let's move on to practice problem number 3, which is hospital mix-up question. Okay. So, one of the ways where you can determine paternity or yung parenthood. Ano bang term yun? Kung para matrace mo kung sino yung parent, okay, is to do blood type analysis. Okay? So, we check kung compatible ba or feasible ba na magkaroon ng anak na ganito based dun sa dun sa blood type nung anong tawag dito? Alleged parent. Okay? Or alleged parents. So, what we have here, medyo mahabang basahin ko muna. Okay, practice problem number 3. 2 women gave birth to girls in the same hospital at the same time. The nurses think they may have accidentally switched the baby's name tags and given the babies to the wrong parents. One baby, Jane, is blood type O. The other baby, Mary, is blood type A. The father in one of the parents, the Reds, is blood type A, and the mother is blood type B. The father in the other set of parents is the Greens is blood type AB, and the mother is type O. Figure out which baby belongs to which parents. So let's start with defining our again, our alleles yung gagamitin natin for this. Although we've discussed this as well, so we're just reiterating yung definition natin ng terms. Okay? So, IA, diba, codes for type A alleles, right? Type A antigens in your red blood cells. Okay, sorry, sleepy na talaga. And then, I superscript B, okay, is the allele that codes for the production of type B antigens. Okay, on the red blood cells. And then small I, no antigens. Although, yun nga, IA is codominant to IB, and both of these are dominant to I over small I. Okay? So, yan yung definition natin ng terms. So, what do we know? We have Jane, the baby, has type O blood. And then the other baby, Mary, is type A, according to the problem. So we have 2 sets of parents who are the possible parents for these babies na posibleng na mix up. Okay, so we have here 1 set of parents, the Reds. Okay, ang sabi dito, ay, ano ba yan? Where did that come from? Sorry, is that my hand? You cannot tell. Okay, the Reds. The Reds, we have the father, is blood type A, and then the mother is blood type B, and then the other set of parents are the Greens. Okay. We have the father with blood type AB, and then the mother has blood type O. Okay. So, how do we determine kung sino yung parent ninong baby? Okay? So, the Reds, we have the blood types of all the individuals naman. Okay? The genotypes, some we can be sure of, some not so much. Okay? So, Jane, for example, is type O. Since it is recessive trait, then we know that Jane must be homozygous recessive for no antigens, right? So, small I ang genotype ni Jane. Okay? Mary, on the other hand, has type A blood. So, there are 2 possibilities. But, in either case, we know that she has at least 1 dominant allele for the production of A-type antigens. And then, the second allele, blank. Blank meaning there are 2 possibilities. Pwede siyang small I, pwede rin siyang isa pang IA. Right? Okay? So, hindi pa natin alam. Unknown yan. Okay? So, we have now the parents. So, same as with Mary, diba? Si father sa red, pwede siyang, so we know na meron siyang isang A. Okay? Pero hindi natin alam kung ano yung second allele niya. Okay? Oops. Ano ba? Si Father Red ay type B ang blood. So, we know that Mother Red, type B blood. So, we know that she has at least one allele for B. Second allele, we can say. Okay. And then, for the greens naman, meron tayong type AB. Now, we know that for you to have type AB blood, you have to have the allele for A and the allele for B. So, this one, we can say for sure na ang genotype ni Father Green ay IA, IB. Para magkaroon ng blood type na AB. And then, the mother is type O blood. So, we know, recessive to, so she must be small I. Okay? So, now, based on what these findings are, okay, which set of parents kaya is the parent of either Jane or Mary? Okay? So, paano natin ma-eliminate? Itong si Green, may AB ka dito. Okay? So, ito, imposibleng maging parents ni Jane. Okay? So, nakuha nyo ba yun if you were doing this also at the same time? So, this genotype, IAIB, could never have children na type O blood. Okay? Kasi kailangan may i-contribute din siyang small I. But that is not the case with the Greens. So, Jane is not their child. Now, before we say Mary, let's double check. Is it possible for them to have a child with Mary's blood type? Okay? So, father has IA. So, check. Pwede to. And then, mother has the genotype small I. So, pwede siya may gamit na small I. So, yes. So, Mary is actually child nung Greens. Okay? And her genotype is actually IA small I. Given the genotype of the parents. Okay? Now, let's confirm though. Can the Reds possibly be the parents of baby Jane? Now, remember that Father Red is type A, Mother Red is type B. Okay? Pwede bang magkaroon ng baby na small I? Yes. That is possible if both parents are heterozygous for their blood type. Okay? So, type A siya, pero heterozygous, so small I yung second allele. And then, type B, si nanay, pwede naman, basta heterozygous siya. So, ito yung i-contribute nila to give the genotype, small I, and then Jane, of course, is a baby of the baby of the Reds. Okay? So, malinaw. It's pretty straightforward. Okay? Now, the last question, number 4, practice problem number 4, has to do with multiple alleles. Okay? So, ang sabi dito, imagine a new allele, I superscript C, that is codominant with IA and IB and dominant to small I. List all of the possible blood group genotypes and phenotypes in a population containing sleepy na all 4 alleles. Okay. Now, we have yung existing na scheme that we have for the ABO blood group. We only have 3 alleles. Diba? We have A, I super... Ano ba? Why does it do that? Here. Okay. I superscript A, okay, which codes for... I superscript A, which codes for A antigens. And then we also have I superscript B, which codes for B antigens. Okay? And they are codominant. They are codominant. Diba? Tapos sabi natin, they are both dominant to small I. Equally dominant, and then both of them are dominant to small I. Okay? Now, sabi dito, may additional na allele. C, I superscript C, that is codominant with A and B, and is also dominant to small I. Okay? So, what are the possible genotypes? And then the phenotypes that will result, how many? Okay? So, 4 alleles this time. So, may iba-iba tayong combination. Tama? So, siguro, makakatulong if we write out all the possible genotypes. Okay? So, pwedeng homozygous for A, homozygous for B, homozygous for C, and then homozygous for small I. Okay? Yan yung mga homozygous types. Now, paano yung heterozygous types? We can have IA small I. Oops. Why did we do that? And then we have IB small I. We can also have IC small I. Okay? So, these correspond to their own blood type. Okay? May iba bang possible? Meron, di ba? Alam natin na pwede magkaroon ng AB blood eh. And that comes from yung type A, IA with IB na heterozygote. Okay? It's also possible to have IA and IC. Posible rin magkaroon ng IB at IC. May kulang pa ba tayo? Ilang genotypes ba ito? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 different genotypes. Okay? Okay. So, may kulang pa ba? A, B, C, AB, AC, BC. Okay? And then, small I, small I. Okay. So, how many genotypes are possible? We counted already. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, 10 genotypes. How many phenotypes? Okay? Depende doon sa dominance relationship, diba? So, this is type A, phenotype, type B, phenotype, blood type C, blood type O, type AB, type AC, and type BC. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different phenotypes. Okay? So, that's it, right? 4 problems. Okay. So, we're not doing problem solving on polygenic inheritance, and we already finished the sample problems that cover incomplete dominance, codominance, and then multiple alleles. Okay? So, if you don't have any questions, if you have questions pala, just go ahead and type it sa comments or send dun sa comments sa YouTube or dun sa comments sa post sa classroom or send me an email and I'll reply to it. Okay? So, sige. Thank you guys. And also, Merry Christmas. This is my last post probably before we actually get to November. Antok na talaga ako. December 25. So, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, guys. I will see you on January 4 when we all come back for classes online. Okay, that's it, guys. Bye!